Imagine watching your favorite primetime TV dad every Friday night. A man who defined wholesome family values for millions, only to realize he was living a devastating double life just to keep his career alive. During the golden age of American television, Hollywood built flawless, straight-laced facades for its biggest patriarchs, while ruthlessly forcing them to bury who they truly were in the shadows. If the world had known their truth, they would have been instantly blacklisted. Today, we are breaking the silence. We'll step behind the dynamic studio curtains to reveal the hidden heartbreaks of America's favorite TV fathers, uncover the ruthless studio cover-ups you never heard about, and see how their legacies finally stand in 2026. The enduring legacy of John Inman, a familiar face on public television. For many American viewers, British comedy became a staple of weekend evenings thanks to PBS. At the heart of that nostalgic lineup was Are You Being Served?, a sitcom that introduced us to the unforgettable Mr. Humphries, played with brilliant comedic timing by John Inman. With his trademark catchphrase, "I'm free," Inman delivered a flamboyant, high-camp performance that kept audiences laughing for over a decade. While his portrayal of the effeminate department store clerk was undeniably stereotypical, it inadvertently did something profound for its time. It provided rare, consistent visibility. In an era when LGBTQ+ representation on television was virtually non-existent, Mr. Humphries was not a villain or a tragic figure, but the most beloved, joyful heart of the show. In keeping with the privacy expectations of his generation, Inman never publicly discussed his sexuality during the height of his fame. He chose instead to let his work speak for itself. Off-screen, however, he lived a quiet, devoted life with his long-term partner, Ron Lynch. The couple spent over 3 decades together, eventually cementing their bond in a civil partnership before Inman's passing in 2007 at the age of 71. Today, as we look back at the classic era of television, John Inman's legacy remains secure. He wasn't just a master of British farce. To many viewers across the Atlantic, he felt like an old friend we welcomed into our living rooms every week. Jonathan Frid. For many Americans who fondly remember the television landscape of the late 1960s, the Gothic daytime soap opera, Dark Shadows remains an unforgettable afternoon staple. At the center of this cultural phenomenon was Jonathan Frid, a classically trained actor who reluctantly became a household name through his iconic portrayal of the tormented vampire, Barnabas Collins. Frid's mesmerizing performance not only saved the struggling series from cancellation, but also cemented its enduring status as a beloved cult classic. Despite his sudden fame and the fervent adoration of fans across the country, Frid was a dignified and deeply private man who strictly separated his personal life from his public persona. Throughout his lifetime, he never publicly discussed his sexuality. While it was quietly understood within his close theatrical circles that he had relationships with men, this aspect of his life was kept entirely out of the press until after his passing in 2012 at the age of 87. Frid's choice to live quietly and discreetly was highly representative of his generation. For actors navigating the public-facing world of mid-century television, maintaining a polite veil of privacy regarding one's sexual orientation was not just common, it was often a professional necessity. Rather than making grand public declarations, Frid preferred to let his formidable talent speak for itself. Today, he is remembered affectionately not for the quiet details of his off-screen life, but for the thrilling theatrical magic he brought into our living rooms every weekday afternoon. The distinguished elegance of Maurice Evans, a legacy of stage and screen. For generations of American theater and television lovers, Maurice Evans was the epitome of classical British sophistication. Long before he became a familiar face in American living rooms, this esteemed actor made a profound impact on Broadway, bringing the works of William Shakespeare to life with unmatched eloquence. Later in his career, he delighted younger audiences as the menacing Dr. Zaius in the 1968 sci-fi masterpiece Planet of the Apes, and charmed television viewers as Samantha's flamboyant wizard father, Maurice, in the beloved sitcom Bewitched. Yet behind the brilliant theatrical flair and the commanding vocal delivery lay a man who valued quiet discretion above all else. Throughout his long and illustrious career, Evans chose never to speak publicly about his personal relationships. While it was widely understood within close-knit theater circles that he was a gay man, he carefully shielded his private life from the media spotlight. This decision was deeply reflective of the mid-20th century entertainment industry. In an era when being openly gay could instantly shatter a distinguished career, privacy was not just a preference. It was a matter of professional survival. Evans chose to navigate his world with dignity, letting his artistic contributions define him. When he passed away in 1989 at the age of 87, he left behind an enduring legacy that spanned both sides of the Atlantic. For older Americans today, he remains a symbol of an era when immense talent and absolute professionalism ruled the stage. Michael Jeter, a legacy of warmth, versatility, and quiet courages. For many American viewers during the 1990s, Michael Jeter was a beloved fixture on evening television. With his slight build and unmatched expressive talent, he brought an unforgettable warmth and complexity to Herman Stiles on the hit CBS sitcom Evening Shade, a role that earned him a well-deserved Primetime Emmy Award. Later, he deeply touched moviegoers as the gentle mouse-training inmate Edouard Delacroix in the classic film The Green Mile. Jeter possessed that rare gift of a character actor, the ability to step into any scene and immediately capture the audience's heart. While he was fiercely dedicated to his craft, Jeter's personal journey required an even deeper level of resilience. For a significant portion of his career, he kept his private relationships out of the public eye, navigating an industry that was not yet ready to fully embrace openly gay performers. However, as times changed, Jeter chose a path of remarkable openness. He became one of the few prominent actors of his generation to candidly share his experiences as a gay man in Hollywood and, more importantly, his daily reality of living with HIV. By speaking out during an era when the stigma surrounding the disease was still immensely painful, he became a beacon of hope and a vital advocate within the LGBTQ+ community. Though he tragically passed away in 2003 at the age of 50, his death was due to complications from an epileptic seizure rather than HIV. Today, older American audiences remember Michael Jeter not only for the brilliant, eccentric energy he brought to our screens, but for the profound dignity and honesty that defined his life off-screen. Richard Deacon, the unforgettable straight man of classic television. For anyone who grew up watching television in the 1960s, Sunday nights and after-school reruns wouldn't have been the same without The Dick Van Dyke Show. At the center of the show's brilliant comedic friction was Richard Deacon, who played Mel Cooley, the bald, deadpan, and constantly exasperated television producer who served as the perfect foil for Maury Amsterdam's endless bald jokes. With his towering height, distinctive glasses, and impeccable slow-burn delivery, Deacon was one of the finest character actors of his era, also gracing other beloved classics like Leave It to Beaver as Fred Rutherford. Yet, while he brought laughter into millions of American living rooms, Deacon lived a life defined by profound personal discretion. Throughout his career, he remained a closeted gay man to the general public. While his sexual orientation was an open secret among his Hollywood colleagues and close friends, he never officially acknowledged it in the press. He never married and maintained a quiet, deeply private domestic life. For actors of Deacon's generation working during the mid-century, this silence was a matter of professional survival. The industry at the time was unforgiving, and the slightest public scandal could instantly dissolve a career built over decades. Deacon chose to make the quiet, personal sacrifices necessary to protect his privacy and his livelihood. When he passed away from a sudden heart attack in 1984 at the age of 60, he left behind a spotless professional legacy, remembered not for the secrets he had to keep, but for the timeless, nostalgic joy he gave to American families. Sir Michael Redgrave, the complex life of a theatrical titan. To American audiences who cherish the golden age of cinema and theater, Sir Michael Redgrave represents the pinnacle of British acting royalty. Whether you remember his captivating American film debut in Alfred Hitchcock's 1938 classic The Lady Vanishes, or his Oscar-nominated performance in Morning Becomes Electra, Redgrave always delivered an unmatched intellectual depth. He was also the patriarch of one of the most celebrated acting dynasties in history, passing his immense talent down to his children, Vanessa, Corin, and Lynn Redgrave. Yet, behind the brilliant marquee lights and the image of a traditional family man, Redgrave lived a life of intense personal conflict. For decades, he navigated the world as a closeted bisexual man. While he was married to actress Rachel Kempson for 50 years, he also maintained deeply meaningful relationships with men. In the close-knit circles of the British theater, his sexuality was an open secret, but Redgrave chose never to come out to the general public. During the mid-20th century, an actor of his stature faced immense societal pressure. Public honesty could have instantly destroyed both his career and his family's standing. Redgrave carried this heavy emotional burden privately until his passing in 1985 at the age of 77, following a long battle with Parkinson's disease. In later years, his children spoke lovingly and candidly about their father's lifelong struggles with his identity. Biographies published after his death finally revealed the full, complex truth, painting a portrait of a man who sacrificed personal openness to leave us an undying artistic legacy. Tommy Kirk, the Disney legend who deserved so much more. For those of us who grew up in the late 1950s and early 60s, Tommy Kirk was the quintessential boy next door of American cinema. As a premier child star for Walt Disney, he stole our hearts in Old Yeller, bringing millions of families to tears, and kept us laughing in classics like The Shaggy Dog, The Swiss Family Robinson, and The Absent-Minded Professor. Kirk possessed a natural, relatable charm that made him the perfect face of wholesome post-war American youth. Tragically, behind the magic of the Magic Kingdom lay a devastating reality. In 1963, while his star was at its zenith, Walt Disney himself discovered that the 21-year-old actor was gay. Fearful of a public backlash that could tarnish the studio's strictly conservative, family-friendly image, Disney abruptly and quietly terminated Kirk's contract. Though he was later brought back briefly for the misadventures of Merlin Jones, the damage to his trajectory was done. Blacklisted by the mainstream industry, Kirk struggled in low-budget teen movies before bravely deciding to walk away from Hollywood altogether. He built a quiet, private life running a carpet cleaning business. But in his later years, he spoke with profound candor and lack of bitterness about the immense pain of being closeted in a ruthless era. When Tommy Kirk passed away in 2021 at the age of 79, he was rightfully honored as a Disney legend. For our generation, he remains unforgettable, not for the unjust struggles that cut his career short, but for the pure, timeless joy he brought into our childhoods. Looking back from 2026, these iconic Hollywood fathers did far more than just entertain us. They carried an immense, silent burden just to bring warmth into our living rooms every single week. The flawless family men we loved on screen were fighting very real, very lonely battles behind the scenes, proving that their greatest acting performance wasn't for the cameras, it was for survival. They paved the way for a world where no one has to hide their truth anymore. Which of these iconic TV dads surprised you the most? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, hit that subscribe button for more deep dives into classic Hollywood history, and we will see you in the next video.